Hi everybody, Bearded Rogue here, and tonight I want to talk about something a little bit different from the usual fare. As most of you know at this point, I have a little one. His name is Raphael. He's 5 years old, and we've recently started playing games with him, as opposed to around him. He has several games that are his favorites, but a game that we got recently has really worked for him in a way that others have not, and so I wanted to talk to you guys about it. And that is Raccoon Rumpus right here. We picked this up at Target. I know that it's available other places, but it's from Educational Insights. And I'd never heard of the company before. Picking this up, they have several other games that are in the same type of box, like they're that color or that shape rather of box. And we're gonna check some of the others out too because they may work as well. The game says that it's for ages 3+. I think that's probably fair. While there is no reading required whatsoever other than the initial read of the rules, it's really easy to teach and really quick to teach. These are the instructions, like the how to play is this section. There's an advanced version memory game that we have yet to try and may or may not try with Raphael at his current age, but we'll see. But that's it. That's all the rules you need. So it's not a very complicated game. And I say that it's not a very complicated game. It's, honestly, if I were rating this as an adult, playing this exclusively with other adults, this would not be a game I would choose. This game is specifically a game to play with kids or to teach kids to play with other kids. Not that it's not fun, just that there's not a lot to it. There's not a lot of strategy involved. It's very much a roll the dice and get lucky kind of game. But there's a lot of things in here that are really good, and one of the things that made me think about was the difference in designing games for the gamer crowd versus designing children's games, and where there might be some different goals in mind. I could say that this game could be considered an educational game, although it is not really marketed as such, and not really trying to be. However, it does a whole bunch of things that I think are really cool. So we're going to talk about those. So the first thing to talk about are the dice. The dice come in two varieties. One has different articles of clothing on it. So there are two shirts faces, two pants faces, one shirt and pants face, and then one underpants face. So what happens is on your turn you'll roll this die, and you'll roll the other die, which has multiple colors on it, purple, yellow, red, green, blue, and rainbow. And then you'll match them together. So if I had, let's say, rolled this, green pants, I would then look on the table for one of these costumes that has green pants. In this case, like this Kung Fu raccoon here. So he has green pants, so I can pick him up. I can then add him to my little naked raccoon. This is kind of like my score tracker, and at the same time, it's really fun because it fits on there, and I now have 1 point towards the end of the game. You win when you have 5 costumes on. So that's the basics. You roll pants or shirt and a color, and then you find a costume that matches. If you roll pants and shirt, then you get to take 2 costumes off the table. One with a shirt that matches the color, one with a pair of pants that matches the color. Obviously, if you're fortunate enough to roll these, then you can choose any costumes you want. Because you can pick any color, and you can pick 1 shirt and 1 pants of any color. But if I were to roll, say, that green shirt pants, I could take this as my pants, but then I would have to find, like, say, this soccer player who has a green shirt, and I could add him as well, and they just stack over the top of each other. And again, I'm trying to get 5 of these before anybody else. The reason I say it's mostly luck-based is, of course, if I roll the underpants, I have to take off all of my costumes and put them back on the table and start over as Naked Raccoon. So that's basically the rules of the game. You now know how to play. But here's where it becomes interesting. Like, if I were rating the game entirely on just the gameplay, it's rolling 2 dice and seeing what happens. But this is a kid's game, and it's playable at age 3+. And the reason why this is important is because one of the things that's often said about Candyland, or various other games of that genre that are for kids that age, is they're trying to teach things. So, one of the first things this does, inherently as a game, is it teaches people to take turns. It also teaches people to follow the rules. Early on in one of our first plays, Raphael would roll the dice, and then he would just decide that he really wanted this veterinarian costume. Even though he hadn't rolled blue pants or a yellow shirt or a rainbow, he really wanted this one, even though it wasn't under the rules. We didn't let him break the rules. We instead enforced it, and later on he was able to get this when he did roll a yellow shirt, and he was the most excited I have seen him in a game ever. So, it follows, taking turns and following rules are 2 things that it teaches. All games teach that. What else? Well, it teaches about outfits. Shirts and pants are something that younger kids and toddlers need to learn about. So learning about shirts and pants is cool. It teaches colors, much like Candyland. It's got several colors. All of the colors on the primary color wheel except for orange. I am guessing that orange is skipped because color blindness-wise it would be too easy to confuse with red and yellow. That way you could get the rainbow dye on here because you had to leave out one color. And purple, green, red, yellow, and blue are more common in the forms of clothing. I don't see a lot of orange clothing, especially when you consider what's in the deck, but we'll get to that. There should be more orange clothing. I don't know why. But anyway, there are only 6 faces on the die. They don't have a 7-sided die, so they had to leave one out in order to get a rainbow on, and orange was what they left out. But it teaches colors. So it's got all of the primary and most of the secondary colors, as well as rainbow. It teaches about getting dressed. Putting clothing on your naked trash panda here. It teaches about getting undressed. Roll the underpants and you take all of your clothes off. All of that stuff is there. Also, it teaches a little bit about recognizing occupations, or at least activities, based on costumes. This is something Candyland doesn't have. So, whether it's a veterinarian, or a soccer player, or a martial artist, kung fu panda, or trash panda, I keep saying panda, but they're raccoons, an astronaut raccoon, a fairy raccoon, a cowboy raccoon, a princess raccoon, a scientist raccoon, a lifeguard raccoon, a firefighter raccoon, a knight raccoon, a artist raccoon, a fisher person raccoon, a rocker raccoon, a doctor raccoon, a ballerina raccoon, a chef raccoon, a baseball player raccoon, a snowboarding raccoon, or a volleyball raccoon. All of these different activities exist. And so it was really cool to see Raphael look through all of them and kind of, you could see which ones were his favorite. He tends to gravitate towards the doctors and veterinarians, although he also likes knights. He didn't know what the baseball player was, so I feel like I'm doing something right as a parent. Sorry, I don't like baseball, personally. But the firefighter, he recognized pretty much all of them, and was able to tell us which one he wanted, which is yet another thing that a kid can learn. So now we're learning about colors, we're learning about tops and bottoms, we're learning about getting dressed and undressed, we're learning about taking turns, we're learning about following the rules, we're learning about keeping score, and the decisions in this game aren't where I would place the decisions for an adult. And in games that I'm designing for adults or for the hobby game market, you want to place the decision points in places where they will determine the outcome or the strategy. The decisions in this game aren't about determining the winners. The dice are largely going to do that. If you are the only person who doesn't roll underpants ever, you win. That's basically what it comes down to. If you are the only person who rolls the top and bottom, and nobody else rolls underpants, you're still going to win. You will get there one turn before everybody else. So the dice largely determine the winner. But the decision points in the game are, which one am I going to pick? Because if I roll, for example, let me just find some that have matching colors. Okay, so if I roll green pants, I now get the decision of, do I want to be a chef or a doctor? This is a decision that's interesting for a kid and will hold their attention. You know, if I get a yellow top, do I want to be a rockin' raccoon or a veterinarian raccoon? Also an interesting decision for a small kid or a toddler. I could also be the chef. Oh my gosh, there's 3 decisions now. I think there's actually every mix of colors in the game. So you could also be a lifeguard, and you could also be a... Let me see, is there another one? No, because there are no duplicates. Aha, there are no duplicates. So there's 4 of every color. So there are 4 yellow tops because there's 1 matching each one. So yeah. So, you know, 4 yellow-topped raccoons. Do I want to be a lifeguard, a chef, a veterinarian, or a rocker? This is a very interesting decision for a kid, and sometimes Raphael will agonize over which one of these he wants to be. Does he want to be a veterinarian, which he absolutely loves? This was something I did not know about him, that veterinarians are something that he's really into. Or does he want to be a rocker, which is something he also really enjoys. He loves music, and he loves dancing around and headbanging to really loud songs. So this is a decision point that's very interesting to a kid and keeps him firmly attentive to the game the whole time we play it, which is something that we've had problems with in the past. Some other games that he really likes include a version of Codenames that we play that's basically like flashcards, specifically Marvel Codenames, and Monza. Monza also teaches colors. Monza also has cool little wooden pieces that he can play with that keep his attention. But Monza had issues getting him to follow the rules. He loved rolling the dice. He understood that the colors on the dice corresponded to the colors on the track. But getting him to the level of understanding that he had to use the dice in a certain order to move to certain colors was something that we've always struggled with. Sometimes he gets it, sometimes he doesn't. Eventually he will, because as he grows up, that's just going to become the way things are. This game doesn't run into any of those difficulties. It's really easy for him to understand, I rolled blue pants, let's find a raccoon that has blue pants. And so he doesn't have a problem following the rules. There's no cognitive overload. There's no processing issues for him. He can just play the game at the same level that we play the game, which is really important. And the amount of stuff that is in this game to teach kids about is stuff that they will need to learn as they get older. Yes, even Raphael, my son, will have to learn what a baseball player is eventually. And it's fun. Like, it's a fun little game. It doesn't take very long to play. You know, typically, if everybody's paying attention and taking their turns, you can play the whole thing in like 10 minutes. And so you have a 10-minute game where you can roll dice and have fun and dress up your raccoons in little costumes that are adorable. And your kids are going to have as much fun as you do. Maybe even more, as they get to decide what they are. And for me, the most rewarding thing about this has been watching him enjoy himself. Other games that we've played or that we've tried to play either involve a lot of thinking or a lot of effort on his part. This game, he can just sit down and play and enjoy, And now I think he has developed more of an understanding about why I play games. They're not all work. Sometimes they're fun. So that's really all I wanted to say. This video is a little bit longer than I intended for it to be, but there was a lot to say about this one. I would recommend it if you are a parent with smaller kids. It's got a lot going on in it with a very small rule set. And I think that, you know, your kids at the very least will enjoy it. And I know personally, watching my son enjoy it made me enjoy it. So, I also want to give a shout out. Kim Vandenbroucke is the designer. They credit her as the inventor. But she owns the game consulting firm Brainy Chick Inc. out of Chicago. She is on Twitter. I do follow her. But she designed the game, and she did a fantastic job designing a game for kids. And that's, like, the whole point. So, bravo. And, Raccoon Rumpus, thumbs up. Anyway, I'll let you guys go now, and have fun gaming. Bye.